the people I was listening to, and then their relationships. What happened? Oh!
You hadn't been recording.
No.
Whoa.
I just had to check.
From the introduction.
Yeah. Damn. It was so good.
That was so good. No, we can remember it.
Yeah,
we can
because
do
it was
it.
going really well.
It was going really well.
Okay.
Oh Lord.
Hip hop is what we do, man. It's the new movement.
Hello everybody, welcome to This House Is Not For Sale, a hip hop podcast co-hosted by Salam J and myself. I am Moshood. Our podcast is really new. It's only 2 episodes old. This is actually the second episode we launched barely a fortnight ago with the introductory episode, and it was hosted by Daniel Mawuli Quist, and we want to say a big up to him for that. On our second episode today, we have a really special guest whom I absolutely love, and I'm going to let Salam J introduce her.
She's definitely known as a cat mama, plant mama, Ghanaian goddess that dropped 11 EPs in 11 weeks.
Can you please say that again?
11 weeks.
Ghanaian goddess that dropped
11 EPs in 11 weeks.
We might come again and try to beat our own record.
Right.
Yes. And she's a neo soul singer, stage slayer, and a healer. That's the most interesting part for me.
And she did a lot of all of that just last night. She had a show last night. Salome and I missed really.
We should be ashamed, but
it's our loss. And then we really want to thank her for agreeing to do this right after having a show last night. So thank you, Ria, and welcome to our podcast.
Thank you,
Ria. We'll like to call this episode the Love and Hip Hop episode. And if you've been following yoyo tinz, and I know you've been following, each and every for about 5 years now, this year will be the 6th year. We've been dropping mixes, hip hop love mixes for some time now, and we call it the Oshun mix, right? Just to celebrate the month of love. So I think that it's great that we have you to talk about love and hip hop. Knowing you very well that when it comes to love and your EPs and your hip hop background, I think you're the best person to have this conversation with. Okay, so now, what would be a love and hip hop moment for you?
Okay,
let me take this one first. For me, the love and hip hop moment for me will be when after junior high, waiting for my results. My first ever girlfriend in the neighborhood. We go for our regular walks. Usually we buy ice creams and whatnot.
Don't find your goals.
And one of my homeboys hollered at me, said something to me. I loved about it, and she wanted to know. I said, "Nah, you can know. This is boys." And it became some whole sort of beef, So I've forgotten how we resolved it, but we did resolve it. And then I was into Jaru at the time, and his Pain Is Love album. There was this pencil art, I don't know, like this crazy font written in Pain Is Love. So I took my pencil, I drew the same thing, and then I sent it over to her, just to express the pain that we went through, fighting, and then we're back together. Pain is love. Exactly. So that would be like a love and hip hop moment for me. What would be yours?
So the first thing, as soon as I heard the word love and hip hop, the first thing I thought about was when J-Lo was dating Diddy, and they got arrested. And I think it was like after the Grammy, something. It was like the big award show, and then after the show they were arrested. And I just remember the whole thing about, look what happened to J-Lo because of love. So that was my first kind of thought. But then I also go back to like young love, like yourself. And I remember TLC's Fan Mail album, and the fact that they have a song called Just Like You, I Get Lonely Too. And that song just maybe that was the beginnings of me writing sad and loving songs. Who knows? But then I remember that song, I used it as a reference point in a letter that I wrote to someone I had a crush on. Class 6 GIS, you know yourself if you're listening. And I wrote this long, elaborate and somewhat explicit letter. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to pass it to him in class. And someone came in between and took the letter and they read it, and I've never been more embarrassed. I also got into trouble, but I got back home and I just remember like playing that album over and over and over again. And I guess like that's something that when I think love and hip hop, it just reminds me of that. But then on a more kind of like literal, Love and Hip Hop is like a reality show that's been on, I think, VH1 for like 10 years now. It's kind of trashy TV. I'm even sad that I'm admitting that I watch it, but
Guilty
I watch
pleasure.
it. It's my guilty pleasure.
We all
I've
have
been watching
them.
all these years, but I think one really cool thing I started watching the show for was because when you see all these rappers, Joel Santana, you have Jim Jones, Fabulous, Papoose, Remy Ma, all these people. You would see them kind of just as the star that they are, but I never got to see behind the veil. I never knew who they were dating. I never knew what love looked like to them. And so if there's one thing about that show is it's showing you how these hip hop stars or how these people that you listen to, like the diplomats, like how they're loving and the issues that they're also having. And I mean, from watching the show, I mean, there is a fair share of drama in love and hip hop. And so, yeah, those are the kinds of things that come to mind, like when you say that. Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
So I've been thinking about this. I think my love and hip hop moment also takes place in a classroom, not my classroom. I am not involved in this love and hip hop moment at all. It would be one of the skits on Lauryn Hill's Miseducation album. So you know, all through the album there are skits that take place in a classroom. So in one of the skits, the instructor asked the class to individually describe what love means to them, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
And then at a point he points out to a boy, and then he says, it's not all the time we hear young black men talk about love. Can you tell us what love means to you? And first time I heard this was like a couple of years ago, and it felt really beautifully significant to me that in a classroom a teacher would be talking about love or exploring love with students, because it doesn't take place in typical classrooms.
Right.
No. It's a crime.
We don't talk about that.
No teacher of mine ever talked about
That's a
it.
Exactly.
And like that struck me as a really profound moment.
Yeah.
And I like that the class, and so they went around the class and people were talking about their idea is a lot. It didn't necessarily have to be deep, but it was still significant. I remember one saying that their idea of love was that the person meant everything to them. Another person was also saying that the person just stands out. And that's where she realizes that
they love them.
That she loves the person. Yeah, so that would be a very significant love and hip hop moment for me.
I remember that skit so well.
Love it so much.
Yeah, wow. It gets more and more interesting when we talk about love and hip hop, and also looking at how we've been creating these mixes for years. You know, we started it, but we didn't think we would even go this far as 6 years and not repeating any song, because usually when you talk about love in terms of music and hip hop, people don't think that hip hop has treated so much about love, you know. But you know, having this conversation and even having this, I didn't even think about that skit, but I do know that skit, and it was a very powerful one, you know.
Yeah, it's actually the point you just made is one of my favorite things about the Ocean mixes, because when you think about the popular reputation hip hop has got as a very macho, very very loveless, very unfeeling genre, and you put that against like a reality where for 6 years we've been constantly curating love songs by hip hop
artists.
I think there's something there to acknowledge. Yeah,
Agreed.
that's dope.
And also, I think what we also did was that we looked at love in different ways, you know, because when you look at some of the songs, some of the artists were lamenting, you know, some of them were celebrating, some of them were you know, just pouring out how they feel, you know. So it gives you like the different colors of love,
Right.
yeah. So I think that's what is interesting. I think that's what maybe even we as adults in society now, experiencing love, chasing love and whatnot, we should also understand that there are different colors to it. That you know, it's not
different ways to love.
It's
Exactly.
definitely
different
a
ways to
very
love.
complex, multifaceted
Exactly.
emotion, and I think that's Ria Boss does that perfectly in her music. So Ria, could you just talk to us about love? I'm that instructor on the skit right now.
Yeah, you're like, okay, so tell us about love.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like
No, please, before you,
Yeah.
I want to acknowledge something you do on your social media that is really, really brilliant and so loving. You end everything you write with "I love you."
Yeah, always.
What's
Always.
that about? Please? I love it so much.
Thank
I
you.
see it and I just beam, man.
You know, so I started doing that maybe I guess sometime last year.
Yeah, even with your weekly releases,
Yeah,
you were
always. I love you.
that. Yeah.
I feel like it's really important to share love every day. Because if there's one thing I've been telling people is like, love is kind of my religion. Like that's kind of how I practice my spirituality, because I believe that in love there can never be anything wrong or bad if you're loving. And so me being like, I love you, is because one, I do love you, and also I feel like if you haven't heard it today, you should hear it. And I feel like everyone should feel love during the day, you know. And I say it to my family members as much as I possibly can. You know, I say it to my friends as much as I possibly can, and I also want to share it with my followers or fans or just friends online, like the world. You know, I love you, and if you're having like a down moment, just know that no matter what, like there's a love there for you. So that's why I started doing that, honestly. Also because I think like I've had a very tumultuous history with love, mainly because I think I wouldn't say naive. I don't think I've been naive at all, but I think that because I feel like I am love and I embody love, I've also allowed certain things to manifest that aren't necessarily the best. And so kind of sort of tapping back into this, okay, well, what does love really mean to me? Or what does love look like? And Nina Simone says it so beautifully, is that love is no fear. You know, when you have no fear, love is on the other side of that, you know? And so I feel like I had a lot of fear, and I had a past relationship that really put me in a position where I started to question what love actually was, because you start wondering, like, you've been with an individual that you've been saying that you love and they love you back, but then the action isn't very loving. But then I've come to understand that people can only love you as far as they've been able to love themselves. And so I can't necessarily even blame a person, right? Because I don't know how far you've gone into yourself to feel love, and so I can't really expect that much of you if you might not even know that of yourself. So love for me is no fear, but at the same time it's reciprocity. Reciprocity, Lauren Hill. But it's also work. I have an unreleased song where I'm like, love is hard, love is work, and love is proof. We can say that we love people, but it's also in how we behave in our actions, and whether or not we have compassion and empathy, and people are allowed to be vulnerable around us. I believe that that's where love lies. And love is truth. So at the end of the day, I feel like if you're living in your truth and you're being honest, in a way you're also being loving, you know, because you're not hiding who you are from anyone. And I think love comes in so many different forms as well, whereas it can be an intimate love or a brotherly love, or I believe that we have soulmates that are not just romantic. I believe like one of my best friends is my soulmate, and I love her just as much as I might love like a lover, you know? And so I think that we also have to allow ourselves to see love for more than just this romantic thing. You know how everyone like Valentine's Day is coming and people are like, I'm gnashing, I'm not going anywhere. And I'm just thinking to myself, but you've got friends, you know, and there's love there.
Yeah.
I feel like we need to start, you know, sort of detaching from this idea that love is simply romantic and intimate. You can actually have those types of bonds with your friends. And so love is so many things, but I love love.
Can I? You want? Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
By virtue of you being so open and so vulnerable with your experiences of love, I know like some of these unfortunate situations that you just spoke about. So I have two questions.
Okay.
One, have some of these experiences sort of changed your philosophies of love, or have they influenced what your beliefs of what love is are? And then the second question would be, what keeps you still believing in love after having like so many experiences?
Maybe I'll answer the second question first. It's so easy.
Maybe if I get some unfortunate, I'm like, no, I'm done with this shit.
I'll tell you what. So when was it? 2017, I dropped Find Your Free. And prior to dropping Find Your Free, I was sharing a bunch of like diary entries of things that I'd been through. And, you know, before releasing Find Your Free, I'd been in a situation that was pretty terrible. And that situation kind of made me feel like, what, like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to even try to feel. But then I moved here, and then in sort of like my non-commitment to finding love, I happened to stumble into something. And then I stumbled into that, and it turned out to be something that, as much as there was a lot of good, there was also a lot of bad. And these things can actually like make you jaded, you know, and make you bitter, and make you like, I've attempted to love, I've opened my heart, and I've been burned. And when people get burned, what happens is they close themselves off. I think that all you can do when the universe sends these lessons to you is to take something from it and maybe see that, okay, maybe this thing, as traumatic as it was, is a lesson. And it's a lesson in not closing yourself off, but rather also being more discerning. And rather just like listening to your intuition more. Because I say that because I think a lot of us, we get those gut feelings, right? When we know something might not necessarily be the best, but we're sticking it out. And my kind of faux pas in all of this is that when I hear the voice or the intuition telling me that this is bad, I'm saying to myself, I can love through it. But sometimes you can't actually love through it, and you need to just listen to your intuition, because that's what's protecting you. That's like ancestors guiding you. So I feel like, yeah, it's easy to say, you know what, I'm done with this. But love is really beautiful, you know, when you feel its warmth, it's really beautiful. And I think that the situations, as much as they could have made me bitter, I think if anything, they've taught me now what real love should look like and feel like, and also to remember like to trust myself. And I think when you trust yourself, you're able to sort of navigate through these types of relationships way easier and way better.
Thank you for that.
Welcome.
That's amazing. So you didn't mention that someone can love as far as they know, right? Yeah. And I think that as an African child, you know, our homes, I think that must be some of the challenges we have,
right?
Especially when it comes to parenting, you know. And I feel like most of us haven't even felt love, in our homes. You know, our parents haven't shown this. Most of us have not even seen our parents love.
Or like be intimate.
Right.
Or,
exactly.
I had never.
Yeah, exactly. So now, how do we learn love, and how do we show love?
Right.
You know, so I think that sometimes those are some of the challenges that we have also. Because so when we get into the relationships, sometimes we don't really know what we are doing,
because we don't have the example, right?
We don't have the example.
So you have nothing to go off.
Yeah, we don't have the understanding. Sometimes we are learning from our soap operas.
Right.
Yeah, our movies. We are learning from gossips from friends. And sometimes we just honestly learning from the mistakes. So
exactly.
Yeah, so I think that sometimes it's not exactly our fault. It's just what it is.
It is. That's very true.
Yeah, so
it actually makes me think of my mom got married. Like, I think, hey mom, when did you get married? I think it's they're in their 5th year now or 6th year. And so it's my stepdad. Shout out to my stepdad. But when they got together, it was the first time I'd seen my mom, like, I don't know how to put it, giddy, excited. Like, I've never seen her like that, in that way. And I think that prior to that, I'd never actually seen her, with a boyfriend or, be intimate. She had gotten married once before, but there was a different energy to that, right? And I can see now why there was a different energy, because they ain't together no more. But now when I see her showing that type of love, it actually, a certain wall that was up prior fell. And I see her talking about, oh, my husband's gonna take me here, and they're holding hands, and they have their little jokes, and they go for their. I'd never seen that. Like, I'd never seen my mom like that, and so to see that was almost like, okay, so you get it. So you do feel the things that I feel sometimes, and I think it was very validating, and in a way also brought us closer. And so I think what you're saying about, like, not being able to see it in our own homes is very true, because then if you don't see it, then how do you then practice it? So that's really good point.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, that's just by the way. Yeah, we should.
I don't know. I've just been thinking that it's funny how with every other submission that you make, I find like a song from your oeuvre that can soundtrack a phrase or a word or a sentence. So you talk about soulmate, and I'm thinking, you're my soulmate. You talk about holding hands, and
talk about holding hands in public.
And then we didn't ask, or you didn't do it directly, but you were casually dropping in some of your philosophies of love, like you said, love is truth, and I was thinking about that, and it just reminded me that I've never told you this, but I have a tattoo that says love is egalitarian. That's one of my philosophies of love, because I think there are no hierarchies in love. Everybody is equal in love. And that soundtrack, the soundtrack to the tattoo is your song Equal. And I just wanted to throw that out. So thank you for that, and for your music, basically. Your life. I'm so appreciative of you, and I love you so much.
Equal. We performed it last night. Eh?
Oh, you did.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yes. Maybe we can talk a bit about. Would you say you have any philosophy of love? Like one of hers is love is true. I think love is egalitarian.
Wow. I don't think it's something I've ever
thought about.
Well, it could be an assignment.
Yeah, but I mean, if I should think through now, I think that love would be honesty for me. Honesty in the way that you don't guard how you feel. And for me, sometimes it feels wrong.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it feels okay. When you don't guard it. Because sometimes where love sends you is not exactly what people want to see,
right?
Or people can understand. So I feel like it's just the honesty, and you alone can know
exactly
that honesty. So I think love for me will be honesty.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And since we're talking love and songs, and the Ocean Mix, this year's Mix has a song by Ria Boss on it. Even before we decided that you were going to be our guest.
I haven't actually studied the list.
Yeah. Would you like to take a guess?
Oh wow. So it's love related. Okay.
Of course,
All right. So, okay. Would it be? What is this? Is it soulmates?
Nah.
No?
Okay, I'll say it.
Okay, say
It's
it.
Blossom.
Blossom.
Yeah. I'd like to talk about this
Frankincense
song.
and myrrh. You see the way.
Right, and also because it has a cute rap verse at the end of the song. Yeah.
Shout out to
Could you talk-
Kwame Universe.
Okay, let's talk about that, please.
Wow. Okay. This song, I wrote it at Akuma Village.
Okay.
Okay.
It's what I'm thinking, right?
Yeah. I wrote it at Akuma Village, sitting, on the rocks.
Yeah.
And I just, it came to me because that's exactly how the love I was in felt. Like incense burning, love intensifying, you've been on my mind, and like what? And it came to, like, the words came to me, like, because I was actively feeling it, and so that's kind of where Blossom came from. And then I remember Come Universe is like, yo, let me get on that. And the verse just, it made so much sense. And it just also gave the song like a really cool arc, And man, that song reminds me of a time. It reminds me of a very the beginning stages of a love. And kind of you're getting to know one another, and it's exciting, and it makes me think of frankincense and myrrh and waves and all the things that make me happy, like I'm always burning incense, and I'm literally always by water somehow. Somehow. If not, I'm going to go and stand in the shower and just let it fall on me. But Blossom definitely, and of course Blossom, right? It's like a flower blossoming, and I feel like that's what love is, because it's almost like you plant the seed, and then you water it, and then it grows, and then it blossoms, and then a bee might come, And so I feel like that's what love is as well, right? It's kind of like the process of a plant, or the process of a flower. And so that's kind of where the name came from for it as well.
If you've never had Blossom, you know what to do.
Bump it.
Right.
Yeah.
And look out for the mix too.
Mix,
it comes out on Val's Day.
Yeah.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are we nearing the end of this episode?
Meow meow.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I think we are about wrapping up this episode.
I think Ria Boss, you have a podcast. Maybe.
Yes.
Yes. So I'm actually on the Gold Coast Report, is a cluster of different podcasts that is here in the podcast space. And I'm one of the co-hosts of a show called The Other Room, which is the women, for women, by women, all that thing. We talk about everything for women. And this season starts on the 3rd of March. And what's really, really fun is that we're also going to be adding some video components. It's going to be at the nail shop. Because my nails are very important to me, but also the nail shop as a space where women go and kind of just like find collective therapy and talk.
That's
when
very
I'm
symbolic location.
yeah, because so LeBron does this thing where he does the shop, where he sits with men in a barbershop and they speak about different issues. And I think that medium is actually really great, because when you are in these spaces, you do end up having these really deep conversations, sort of like on a regular Monday or a regular Wednesday. And so I found that really interesting, and I thought to myself, it would be really great to catch some of these conversations while we're also getting our nails done or something like that, but just bringing different issues to light. Because I remember one time we were there, and then religion, and some of us in the space are not Christian, and some are. But it wasn't, nobody was getting mad at anybody. It was actually very free-flowing conversation about everybody's individual beliefs. And we all kind of left feeling like, you know what, I might not agree with you, but I'm not mad at it. And I feel like that's beautiful, because usually people, if they have their own beliefs, they'll try and,
and that's respect as well.
And that's respect as well. So so we have The Other Room, and that's on the Gold Coast Report. Yeah.
Wow.
Look out for that as well.
Yes.
There was one thing. Do you have anything to say?
No, I think we've said a lot in relation to love and hip hop. So
I wanted for us to end this love and hip hop episode with each of us saying what our favorite hip hop love song is, and if possible, drop a line or two from any
that gotta go
any
into
verse
my
on the
mind.
song.
Okay, what is my favorite?
I've met so many men.
Oh, okay.
It's
Maybe
like
you go
they're all
first.
the same. My appetite for loving is not my hunger, babe.
So that's Selam.
And when I'm feeling sexy, who's gonna come for me? I know the problem is my insecurity. I'm trying to be home.
Okay. So that's Selam.
Okay. Oh, this is
Ja Rule,
this
though.
is hard. You see, you wear a Ja Rule head.
Eh,
Ooh, this is so hard.
Maybe I can say mine.
Okay,
Yeah.
you can say yours and I'll think of
So
mine.
mine would be The Light by Common. It goes like, it's a sampled hook. The hook is sampled from a song called Open Your Eyes. I don't remember the artist's name, but the hook goes like, there are times when you need someone, I will be by your side.
Yeah.
There is the light that shines.
Yes.
Special. And then he comes in like, I never knew a love like this. Gotta be something for me to write this.
good.
Queen 19 in a minute. It's so beautiful. I love that song so much. And the video too, because Erica Badu is in the video, and at the time they were a couple, and I thought that made the video very much organic and so wholesome. It's so beautiful.
Yeah,
like,
it's a really beautiful
at the
song.
end of the video, she's in bed, and then he comes in and pulls the duvet over her shoulders, and then just sits on the floor and watches her sleep. And I think it's like one of the most incredible pieces
Yeah, I
of
think I
art
remember that
ever
video.
created to me. I
See,
think.
now you've made me think of two.
Okay.
The first, because when you said Erica, but I was like, whoa. I was like, love of my life, you are, with Common.
Right,
and I
yeah.
think they were dating at the time.
They were, yes.
Love of my life, I can pretend.
Okay, so that's one.
That's one. And then the classic, I don't think we're all in this Accra. I love you and I need you.
Okay,
Love
yeah.
you, I do. No matter what I do. Oh. So, can we end on that note? And Kelly.
All right. Maybe we can end on that note. So like on that song in the second verse, one cute thing that Common does is like he goes like titita 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 titita. Yo, I'll tell you the rest when I see you. Peace.
Hip hop is what we do, man. It's the new movement.